San Diego County's proposed budget for the fiscal year, which starts July 1st, would increase spending by about 2.5% or $110 million more than last year's budget. Joining me with more on where the money could be spent and how it could impact the region is Chair of San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Greg Cox. Mr. Cox, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Remind us again how this county budget works and why it's a two-year plan.
Well, going back a number of years ago, we realized that we really need to plan more, not just for this year, but have a good idea where we're going to be the next year. And so we started doing a two-year operational plan, which has worked very well for the county. We know very well where we're going to be this next year based on the projections of revenues and the expenditures that are included in the CAO's budget. But we also look at that second year to have a pretty good idea of where we think we're going to be next year, so we don't have any major surprises.
Now, this budget would provide funds for quite a bit, and you have on the counter here the actual budget, which is this giant binder.
Yeah.
And what it's saying here is that there will be funds provided for about 16,600 full-time county jobs, or about 3.9% more jobs than the previous budget. 4.4% of those jobs are going to be in public safety. At least there's money earmarked to expand the staff at the women's jail. 3.6% would go to health and human services for more staff and services. Land use, environment, and general government sectors are also slated to get more money. But funds for capital projects would drop by 39%. What are some of those capital projects that might be not getting as much money as they did last year?
Well, actually, over the last 10 years, we've really been on a major capital expansion program, or building the facilities we needed to replace a lot of outdated facilities. Over the last couple of years, we've invested a lot of money into our County Operations Center, which we just completed the second phase of towards the end of last year. Right now, we have under construction a new Registrar of Voters facility that will be done in December of this year. A plan for construction this next year in the budget is funding for a new library in Alpine, another new library in Imperial Beach. We'll be building a new 400-bed facility for prisoners that we're going to be having to pick up in San Diego County out at East Otay Mesa. And then, as you mentioned, the women's detention facility will be under construction. It should be completed next year.
And let's talk about that. So some of that money was for detention staff in the women's jail particularly. Tell us about how this funding had to be put this way because of the prison reform, or is it linked to that?
Well, it definitely is linked to that. The Las Colinas Women's Detention Facility has about 800 beds right now. This new facility, which will be a state-of-the-art, it's really more of a campus. And, again, Las Colinas was originally a juvenile detention facility 50 years ago, so it's been poorly designed, poorly constructed, and needs to be replaced. We will be adding additional sheriff's correctional officers out at the Las Colinas facility. This new 400-bed reentry facility will be another expansion of our criminal justice system. Right now we have about 5,500 beds. Obviously we're going to add 400 more at Las Colinas, another 400 on East Mesa, so that's going to require additional staffing.
And this is because of this mandate that we'll be taking a little bit more of a pain for these prisoners. Now, let me ask you this, the budget of $110 million increase, some of that is for retirement cost?
Some of it is, absolutely. Our retirement costs have been going up, as most agencies have governmental agencies over the last few years. Just last week, our San Diego County Employees Retirement Association dropped the assumed rate of return from 8% to 7 3/4. So that's going to add about another $25 or $30 million to the total cost that we have to basically support that retirement system. So that's a big part of the increase.
Now, I think some folks don't know about this, but do the supervisors still have their discretionary funds? And if they do, how are those stacking up as far as where they're going to be spent?
Yeah, our neighborhood reinvestment program used to be at $10 million. It was dropped down to $5 million a few years ago, and that is available, and it's included in the budget. And it's like, I think, 1/100th of 1% of the overall county budget. But keep in mind, the County Board of Supervisors has control over a $5 billion budget. So $5 million set aside for specific projects within the supervisorial districts is a pretty modest amount of money to have some discretion over the course of the year. And of course, each supervisor takes responsibility for what they're directing funds for. I mean, I've given money to, most of the money this year actually has gone to community clinics. We provided money to kind of jumpstart the Imperial Beach Library. So each supervisor is accountable. It comes to the full board, and it takes 3 votes to approve whatever is going to be allocated.
Alrighty. Well, Greg Cox, Chair of San Diego County Board of Supervisors, thanks so much for the update.
My pleasure.